Hello, everyone. I'm Eddie Lambert. I am the head of product line management at Mitel, and I'm focused on the large enterprise platforms, which is MX-ONE and the surrounding applications. And I'm here today. Uh, Unfortunately, I can't be here in person, but okay. Well, this virtual event is the best way to be able to communicate these days, and I'm happy to be able to do that now. Basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends that we see or the technology that we see on the UC space in the market. This technology is the underlying pin work, or shall we say the underlying base that we're using to achieve the strategies that Martin was talking about earlier and a little bit that Matt was talking about. I'll show a little bit how these things are connected together and how this is going to evolve, how the trends are and how things are going to evolve going forward. And I'll more specifically also concentrate during this presentation a little bit on the MX-ONE itself and MiCloud Telepo as they apply to the Nordic markets. If we look a little bit on the building blocks of the future, we can see that, of course, we still have the call control and the applications that we do, and we still will continue to develop those as has been shown to you in the earlier presentations. But we've also added some new components into this, which will enable us to achieve the longer-term strategy that we're trying to achieve. One is a creation of the CloudLink architecture, which gives us access to a certain amount of microservices that can then be, shall we say, consumed by the different applications, either directly as an application that's in the cloud or it's an on-site application that can consume some of these different types of services. And behind that, there's a technology such as Docker, which is more container technology, which is the next generation virtualization, if you want to call it that. And I'll get into that in a second. And all of that can be managed or orchestrated, if you wish, using tools like Kubernetes. And then, of course, we have our Cloud Connect partners, such as AWS, GCP, and Azure that we work with. These are cloud infrastructure partners where these applications will reside in one form or another. In some cases, it'll be application complete call control as well as the surround applications. In other cases, it's going to be parts of applications that apply, or it'll be the services that are consumed by the different on-site applications. So there's a mix and match of different things depending on what you're trying to achieve. If we look a little bit where we are and where we've been from a MiVoice perspective, we started back in the days on a proprietary server or even open, shall we say, Intel type servers, and then we moved to virtual machines, and there's different kinds of virtual machines, whether it's VMware. Mitel was the first to be doing VMware, and then we moved on to Hyper-V and KVM and all these other different technologies as part of this, and now we're in the phase of, shall we say, evolving the architecture towards containers and enabling the consumption of microservices through our CloudLink architecture. At a high level, if I was to explain this, we of course have our CloudLink architecture, which is sitting in AWS, which means that it's where we do all the design of our microservices. Of course, it is a very reliable and scalable platform, AWS, which allows us to be able to address many customers and also be able to add capacity as we need it or whatever. Of course, it also allows us to do lots of updates and with zero downtime type deployments, things like that. So it's basically primarily a serverless type technology, and it's made or designed, shall we say, to make it easy to connect from a premise organization and directly into the cloud, into cloud applications. And of course, because it's part of AWS, it means that it's geographically dispersed, meaning that we have data centers in Europe as well as in the US or in Asia, making it that we can have, if necessary, customers who like to keep their information in Europe, we can arrange to make that happen. If they want their applications local in Europe, there's no reason for them to go and look for an application that's sitting in the US. So we will have different data centers and be able to have the same level of services regardless of the physical location. And of course, at the bottom, you see that you still have the call control. It's the same, whether it's MX-ONE or other platforms. They will remain. And what we will have in the middle is what we call a CloudLink gateway, or an API interface towards the cloud, which enables us to consume these applications either directly by the call manager or by the associated applications such as MyCollab, MyCC, etc. I'll get into that a little bit more as we go forward here. If we look a little bit, the relationship between CloudLink and the apps, just to be clear, CloudLink is not a product. Okay, CloudLink is an architecture, and that's the main thing that you need to understand here, is that we're not selling a CloudLink application. What we're selling are services that are linked to CloudLink services that is, it could be a MyCollab system, which is on-premise, installed on-premise at the customer site, but the chat function, for example, could be, or the meeting function, in this case, as the example shows, meetings would be located in CloudLink, and you can consume those meetings directly via the normal interface that the user would be using on MyCollab. He would just have access to a service which is actually residing in the cloud. Okay, so it's a little bit done that way. There are also the possibility, of course, to have full applications in the CloudLink architecture, such as MoMA, for example, which is the mobile office application, which is used on the SMB platforms today, and things like that. So, and then later in the future, possibly we could have large enterprise applications based on the same sort of principle. Okay, so we could have a UC application for MX-ONE that would be residing actually in the cloud, and from a user perspective, it wouldn't make any difference. It's just consuming an application which is in the cloud, using the same call manager and the same applications on site that they already have. If we look at we talked a little bit about containers a little while ago, and the difference really being that in a virtual machine you have also the operating system with like Linux, like Windows and all that, which is included as part of the virtual machine. Whereas in containers you do the abstraction of the actual application itself. So the call manager application or the app or a UC application would be extracted, and then it's smaller pieces which are lightweight, which don't impact on performance, and then you just have one layer of the OS which is managing these different containers, shall we say, and then you have Kubernetes in the background which is doing all the orchestration of that. Makes it easier from a scalability, bringing up and down. It's very quick. It'll also help in the future in terms of upgrades and stuff like that, so you have zero downtime, or absolute, because it takes seconds to start up a new instance. You can move users from one instance to another instance, that type of thing. So it will be easier in that sense going down the road. It'll be more efficient. Now, if we look at the enterprise architecture, we see that we have three different areas. One, you have the on-site, the call control platforms, or whether they're on-site, whether they're private data centers such as MX-ONE MLA or Flex, or or they could be public data centers that means the applications actually reside on AWS or GCP, or in the case of MX-ONE, for example, it would be Azure. So we would have an MX-ONE instance that would be sitting on Azure. That's just an example of one of the ways we would do it. Then you would also have your next-gen applications, some of which are on-site, such as MyCollab, such as MyCC, and then you could also have apps that are in the cloud that could be consumed directly, such as MoMA or meetings, that type of thing. And then you have a series of microservices above that, where CloudLink allows these services to be consumed by these different applications, or even directly by the call manager. And these different services vary. It can be a chat, it can be security, whatever, SMS, it can be a video, like meetings, for example. The MyCollab chat, there's an option for either having an on-site chat, or what we call legacy chat, or having the persistent chat, which is then a cloud-based solution, so you can choose between one or the other depending on the type of organization that you are. And in that case, you would the MyCollab application itself would consume the CloudLink-based chat option. The path to improving the business process through cloud begins with removing the roadblocks, meaning that today there are roadblocks when it comes to using cloud services depending on the type of organization that you are. And perhaps if you are worried about data data sovereignty or data residence, that type of thing, then you need to make sure that there's a POP in the cloud that's in your country or in your regional in your region, that type of thing, those type of roadblocks. But as we go along, and security also obviously being the other roadblock, and redundancy being a third roadblock. So when these things start to go to be handled, which they are being handled today, in terms of security, redundancy, that type of thing, the cloud-based services are very good. Even in terms of geographical location, we have POPs in different regions of the world. So these things are going away, and we're going to see that most organizations by 2024 are going to have some sort of cloud strategy or have some sort of level of cloud deployment. It may still mean that the call manager may reside on the main site, and even some of the applications may reside on the main site of the customer site directly, but it also means that certain applications could be consumed directly from the cloud, so it would be a hybrid situation or a combination between on-site applications and cloud-based applications depending on the situation. And in other cases, they would be able to consume completely the complete suite, whether it be call control as well as the call center UC directly from the cloud, depending on the type of customer and the vertical that you're working in. And then the idea being that regardless of whether it's a hybrid situation or whether it's a pure cloud situation, the solution, whether it be in terms of meeting, messaging, and telephony, will be basically 100% the same from a user experience perspective. So it'll be completely seamless. It won't matter physically where the application is residing or where the microservice is residing, but the user experience will be identical. And that's the point here. So we're giving our customers choices. They can choose an on-site solution, or they can choose a cloud solution, or they can choose a combination between the two. If we look a little bit from a more Nordic perspective, I would say, we're looking at a new class of solutions where excuse me, we have the public cloud delivery, or we have a private cloud delivery, and in those cases we'll have different components that we show that build up the application. But at the end of the day, it'll have a consistent user experience, consistency in commercial licenses, and in the way it's put together. So you will have the same types of applications, whether it be UC applications, contact center, that type of thing. It's just maybe the underlying call control platform will differ, and the location of that platform will differ depending on the type of the deployment that it is. If it's a public cloud, it'll be a Telepo solution, which is being managed by the partner in a partner data center directly. If it's a private cloud or a private customer, then you might find the MX-ONE, which could be residing on the customer premises, or it could be a MLA type solution that could be residing in a partner network. And finally, of course, with the introduction of the public cloud infrastructures, MX-ONE could be also running in an Azure type environment in the future, as we see here, meaning that the customer has a choice. He can either decide to deploy it in his own data center, or he can decide that he wants to move away from having his own data center and have it deployed in Azure instead, and using a public cloud infrastructure for that. So these are options that we're offering with the different type of solutions that we're depending on the vertical that we're working in. If we look a little bit from a segmentation perspective, when we look at Telepo, we're looking at public cloud, we're looking at small, medium enterprises, which means it starts from a few users up to several hundred users very easily. It could scale more than that if you wanted to. And then the MiVoice MX-ONE is typically addressing the larger enterprise organization, which starts somewhere in the, say, a little above, below 1,000 and moving up to well above several thousand users. In that case, the choice of platform is made at that level, and then the common set of applications that reside above are the same regardless of whether it's a MiCloud Telepo solution or whether it's a MiVoice MX-ONE solution. And then, of course, we can have CloudLink enabled applications on-site with on-site call control, with the SWA. That's going to remain the same. So when we talk about MiVoice MX-ONE, we're talking about MLA in one case, and we're talking about on-site in the other. The customer still has a choice. They can do either one of those. When we look a little bit more closely on the Telepo side from a roadmap perspective, first and foremost, we should say that Telepo is a widely used solution in the Nordics, in particular, and in some other countries around Europe. And it is a partner-managed solution. So it's a MiCloud Telepo is a partner-managed cloud solution for small medium enterprise. It's a multi-tenant solution, complete, and a lot of our different service providers around Europe are using this solution, with 1.6 million deployed users around Europe. If we look a little bit about how this changed the market, what we see here is, if we take Telia as an example, they use in the background, if you say in the base, you have the Telepo platform, and then you have different applications that are built up around it, including the Telepo applications. But then they bundle that in with different offers to meet the market demand, whether it be minutes, whether it be mobile subscriptions, that type of thing. So they create a complete offer, and with having Mitel as the base of the offer, and then adding their own added value products on top of that. If we look a little bit also at Tele2, it's a similar type approach where it's a similar product in the background. You have your Mitel infrastructure in the background, and then it built with the platform itself, the call control, as well as the applications, mobile applications or whatever, and then Tele2 will build their added value on top of that in terms of mobile subscriptions, mobile minutes, that type of thing, to build their own solution on top of that. A third example might be Soluno, where we have a similar type of solution, more focused on it's a complete solution, but similar to, it's just different components. The components in the base and the back are the same. It's just the way it's brought to market by the different service providers is different, depending on what their focus is. If we look a little bit we always think mobile first when we're talking Telepo as well. It was the basis of that, and you have a series of different applications that can be run directly from your mobile, whether it be chat, collaborate, call recording, agents, and all that can be done from a single client, which is then device independent. So you can have this client running on your iPad, or you can have it running on your mobile or on a regular PC, and you have a consistent, shall we say, user experience across the different platforms where you run these applications. But this was the original, shall we say, focus of the product, and has always been the focus of the product, is to think about the user first, and the fact that users are mobile and that they move around. And it's not about their mobile phone, it's more about the fact that they are mobile and they can use different types of devices, and they want to have access to the same user experience. If we look at from a roadmap perspective, we see that the different platforms we have, the collaboration, contact center, the different applications, if you wish, they're all continue to be developed, and they will. The idea being to add improvements to the user experience across a platform. Nothing specific in terms of, I'm not going to go into the details when it comes to what features we're going to get on this or on that, but just to say that we have a suite of applications, and they will continue to be developed, and we will deliver updates on these different applications as we go forward. And then we have the base platform like Telepo 5.1, which is being developed as we speak, and there'll be some updates to that. We're looking at faster upgrade, smoother upgrade, moving to a public cloud support, moving the applications into the public cloud, such as GCP or AWS, that type of thing. So there's a lot of things that we add into the product as we go forward. I'm not going to read them out in detail here. I think you can see them for yourself. If we look at the MX-ONE side of things, we talk a little bit about this market transformation, or where we're going in the large enterprise space. Yes, we have the MX-ONE on the bottom level. We have the MyCollab and the MyCC suites, as well as CMG, and then we consume, in certain cases, the on-site applications can consume certain services, like if it's MyCC Business, we would be able to consume the AI. If it's MyCollab, you would be able to consume things like chat, or things like like video and things like that. And in the future, the idea would be that the MX-ONE itself would also be able to connect directly using a CloudLink gateway to the CloudLink architecture to be able to consume directly certain applications as they come along. And that also means that the MX-1 itself could be sitting on an Azure infrastructure and have the applications sitting on AWS. So depending on what the customer is looking for, they would have their applications, and the application could be MX-1, MiColab, MiCC, that would be running in Azure, yet they would consume applications on the other side, which would be in the AWS on the CloudLink architecture, to be able to have direct connections to these different services that are residing in CloudLink. The strategy going forward, of course, is to continue to develop the private cloud for large enterprise based on Azure, maybe in the future driving towards containers technology as it becomes relevant. But the first focus is having MX-1 supported on Azure, and that will happen, and I'll show that in the roadmap presentation, but that will happen no later than Q3 this year. We'll also continue the drive towards the transition towards UC. Very, very tight integration with MiColab. That is the focus today, and we're seeing that in 7.3 there's going to be a lot of functionality that we're delivering, which is direct integration with MiColab to bring the product to a very tight integration with a very high level of functionality. And then we'll also be delivering further in the year the CloudLink-based access to the CloudLink-based services via the CloudLink Gateway, which will be supported officially on the MX-1. And then, of course, we'll continue with our large enterprise focus, meaning the first things are redundancy and security, as well as being able to simplify the management of the solution to drive down TCO for the customer. And, of course, we'll continue to develop large enterprise customer-specific requirements. So if we look at it from a roadmap perspective, we have 7.3, which will be coming out in Q3 this year. And it will be, first and foremost, the deployment of MX-1 on Azure. We'll also be doing some customer-specific developments, and we'll be delivering in conjunction with MiColab 9.2, MiCC E 9.4, Inattend 2.6, CMG 8.5 SP2, as well as we'll be looking at MiCC Business 9.3. And then further down the road, we will, and we said here the introduction of CloudLink Gateway as a service. That might arrive slightly after the release of 7.3, maybe in the first service pack thereafter, but it will be before the end of the year. And then in the MX-1 Next, what do I call MX-1 Next for me, is the future focuses, which would be more public cloud support, a phase 2 of that, improvements on redundancy and upgrade time, things like that. So we'll be doing and redesign also of the management interface to improve the TCO, and we'll continue with customer-specific requests. At the end of the day, it's going to look a little bit like this. You're going to have the MX-1 itself with a portfolio that can run in Microsoft Azure. So for those customers who've decided to move away from their own data center, they could have MX-1, MiCC, and the applications running in Azure, and then they could also consume either services or applications that are running in AWS, such as chat or My Team Meetings. It could be performance analytics. It could also be, for example, if they wanted MiVoice recording, they could get that to consume that either on site or directly from GCP. Stuff like that. So there'll be a mix and match. It'll be more of a hybrid situation going forward when it comes to the MiVoice MX-ONE platform. So in conclusion, I would say that we are strengthening our enterprise UC solutions with best-in-class deployment flexibility, application innovation. I don't need to go into that. You've seen a lot of that in terms of the strategy and presentations given by Martin and by Matt Clare. We'll also be seeing a little bit more on the application side, more specifically by Mona, who will be presenting in a minute. So I think we're in a very, very strong position here. I wanted to conclude a little bit with an example. This was what was presented at the Mitel Next in Amsterdam 2-3 months ago. Bring your attention to the one in the middle, which is the ICA case, which is a case in Sweden. It's a grocery store chain where we had, it's an interesting case where we used, the partner used both the Telepo solution as well as the MX-1 solution combined together. They were integrated together over SIP trunks and over CTI to be able to provide a customer with a seamless experience across, regardless of where the location was. In the main larger sites, they would have an MX-1, they have an MX-1 centralized solution. And in the remote sites, they have a Telepo-based solution with the apps directly, so that there was communication of obviously between the users on all sides, and they have a full MyCC contact center which was being used on both sides, MyCCE contact center. So they were sharing, shall we say, an MX-ONE and a Telepo-based solution towards the entire customer. This is an interesting case, and I believe that there are more cases just like that that we can imagine, where sometimes you have a large organization, a lot of smaller organizations. Maybe it makes sense to have an on-site solution for the large part, and then be able to consume cloud-based services such as Telepo service provider on the other side. With that, I will just say that I hope you've seen that we offer a complete solution, user-centric solution with device-independent apps, professional attendance solutions, web conferencing, and the focus really is on the user experience, and that's what it's about. And it's a seamless experience regardless of the type of solution that you deploy, whether it's a public cloud solution, private cloud solution, or on-site, you're going to get a common user experience, and that's the message here. With that, I think I'm done, and I will hand it back over to Klaus. Thank you very much.